Hey guys, John Osumi from Motion Shooter Photography coming at you again with another video. Hey, it's been a while since I put out a video, but being that we're in quarantine and self-isolation, it kind of changes how we operate. And so I've been using this time to work on my personal fitness and trying to just make sure that the tool that I use the most, and it's not my camera, it's my body, I want to make sure it's in the best shape possible. And I want to show you some things that as a photographer you can do to strengthen your postural muscles, so when you are shooting, it's not going to be the same strain as it once was. Let's work on some things that maybe we were looking over in the past. Stay tuned. If you look at the stick on my back, it's touching the back of my head, it's touching between my shoulder blades, and it's resting on my tailbone all simultaneously. And so when I do any of these exercises I'm about to show you, you want to maintain this posture the whole time, okay? So with that said, if you find your posture breaking down, like your head drops, your back rounds, if you lose any one of these points of contact, stop. Because anything you do beyond that point is reinforcing bad posture, bad habits, and these are going to lead to overuse injuries. I guarantee it over time. Okay, so let's get right into the meat of the exercise. I want to show you some good stuff. Two-legged bridge. I'm laying on my back, my knees are straight, my feet are resting on top of the ball. Now where my feet rest on the ball is going to determine how difficult this exercise is. The closer the ball is to me, the easier the exercise gets. You have more leverage advantage. The further away the ball gets, it's going to get more wobbly, and you're going to have more of your body weight to press. Pressing straight down into the ball with straight knees, your hips are going to rise off the mat, and your finished position is going to be with your body in a straight line from the ankles all the way to your shoulders. You want to pause briefly at the top before returning to the bottom. As you come down, you want to make sure your hamstrings, the back of your thighs, remain under tension as it lowers your body under control. They will be a light touch on the ground before you go back up into the next repetition. You're going to do a total of 15 repetitions. If you want to advance this, there's a couple ways you can do this. You can remove your arms or reduce the amount of interaction between your arms and the ground. And that's going to make it more wobbly. And then if you want to go even further, you can do this one leg at a time. So it's kind of like walking where one leg will contract, come back down to the ground. You switch legs, do the same thing, and you're going to alternate every time. And the idea behind that is that you're losing and regaining your balance each step of the way. From the same position, we're going to go with the lion leg curl. And this is a fantastic exercise for the hamstrings, the back of the thighs. But if you do it the way that I'm showing you right here, it's very difficult, but it also will work the entire posterior chain, posterior meaning the back side of your body, the back of the legs, the back of your core. It's going to work all that at the same time. Initially, it might be difficult to do it in a manner that I'm showing you, but as I curl the ball, my hips are actually rising up, so there is no bend at the waist. And then as your hips rise, it's the glutes and low back and the hamstrings simultaneously raising your body to this position. You want to return back to start under control, and your hips stay up the entire time. So you're doing 15 repetitions, one after another, maintaining this posture. Keep your stomach tight and do it the best you can. You might have to start with less than 15 repetitions, but as you work up, 15 will be your number. And then you can start using some of the techniques I talked about earlier about removing your arms from the equation to make it more difficult. And then the final stage before you master this exercise will be to do it one leg at a time. One thing I will like to say is that you want to make sure you keep your knee aligned. And this is probably one of the more challenging portions of the exercise is you don't want your knee to bow in and out. You want it to kind of stay in a straight line. And that's going to require a lot of concentration. Prone hip extension. Okay, this is a great exercise for the glutes, the butt muscles. I'm on the ball. The difficulty it determines by how far forward you're on the ball. So the more you roll towards your head, the exercise gets easier. And then the more you roll towards your rear, it gets tougher, meaning more of your body's hanging off the back of the ball. There's less balance and your leverage is a lot more challenged from that further position. The knees stay completely straight and locked. My hands are basically just balancing on the floor. And again, as I always said, your posture is perfect, going back to the reference with the stick. I'm going to raise both legs with straight knees simultaneously until my body is in a straight line. You do not want to raise your legs higher than the rest of your body. You're starting to overextend your low back, okay? And anytime you exercise through a range of motion that's greater than what's optimum, you're creating a bad habit, okay? So exercise is all about creating proper habits. If you want to make this one tougher and you've already adjusted your position on the ball, the next step to make it tougher would be to lower your upper body. So basically you're bending your arm, you're changing the angle that your body's working on. So with your head lower, your feet will come higher, but you're still not hyperextending your low back, okay? The key to any position on these is make sure you touch the floor with your toes on every repetition. And that's going to mean that you're really going to have to pike at the waist to get those legs all the way down, okay? Full range of motion is so important on any exercise because not only are we building strength, posture, proprioception, all these other good things, we are also building flexibility. Alternate Superman exercise can be done from a very similar position. I'm face down over the ball. This time I have 4 points of contact on the floor. What makes this challenging though is that I'm still maintaining my posture with my body. That stick is laying on my back, either imaginary or real. And I'm maintaining this posture as I lift one arm and the opposite leg to parallel to the floor. Okay, and there's a couple pointers I want to point out to this. The arm that lifts, it's lifting straight up in front of you. Thumb is on top. We don't want to go this way. We don't want to go that way. The thumb is on top. If you want to know the technical reason for that is it activates the rotator cuff, and anytime we externally rotate our arms or our hands, it's actually putting our posture in a better position, so why not exercise that way? Thumb comes up, and leg extends straight back. You want to make sure the leg, as it extends back, you're feeling the muscles of the glute or the butt, lifting that, okay? So, thumb up, opposite leg is going straight back. You're going to pause just for a brief second at the top and then come back down, light touch on the floor, switch sides. So again, like walking, you're losing and regaining your balance on every repetition. This is a great posture building exercise. It's a great core building exercise, and it builds what I call proprioception, meaning that your brain learns to recognize your position in space, without physically looking around. Because when you're balancing on a ball, you start gaining this awareness of your space around you. Back extension. This is a kind of an opposite of the prone hip extension. The position is very similar, but the action is very, very different. The thing that changes how difficult it is where you put your arms, okay? So the further your arms are to your body, the easier the exercise gets. You're basically reducing the amount of weight that your body is lifting. The next phase would be behind the head, behind the ears. And I never clasp my hands behind my head. I always put them behind the ears because you never want to push your head forward by clasping your hands. So behind the ears is just a good checkpoint, but it's not going to give you something to push against. And then the most difficult position would be straight overhead and always thumbs up, okay, for the same reason that I explained before. From the straight position with the stick on your back, you are going to round your back. And this is one of the few exercises where I feel it's okay to round your back because we are creating range of motion. You're going to round your back, you're going to come down, you're almost going to touch your nose to the ball. I don't recommend touching your nose to the ball, but get pretty close. And then come back up to neutral, meaning do not hyperextend. You're just coming up to a neutral position where your body's in a straight line. I'll be redundant on these things that I'm saying. You never, ever, ever go past the range of motion that's proper because we're training habits, okay? 15 repetitions here, forward ball roll. So now we are changing positions. You want to remember those positions I showed you with the stick on your back. You're going to maintain this perfect alignment. My elbows are resting on the ball, my elbows to forearms. My body is straight. My thighs are leaning slightly forward because if I let my thighs go perpendicular to the ground, there's no tension on my stomach. You always want to make sure that there's a little bit of forward lean throughout the entire range of motion on this exercise. I am going to extend my shoulders forward and simultaneously lean forward at the waist. So I'm creating a bridge the further I go out with the ball. You're going to feel the strain on your stomach and you're going to feel the strain from top to bottom. That's one thing I like about this exercise as opposed to crunches, because crunches you typically only feel in the upper portion of your stomach, and the upper portion of the stomach is overworked on 99% of the population already. It doesn't need any additional work. It just needs to be learned to be incorporated with the rest of the body. Position, I'm going to go into the exercise called Around the World. So I am laying face down on the ball, and just by being in this position, the whole backside of your body is under tension if you're maintaining the posture as I described with the stick on your back. The more forward you're on the ball is, the more you roll towards your head, it's going to get difficult. And the more you roll back towards your feet, it's going to get easier. It's going to be more stable as you back up. You want to find a position that you can do this where the ball does not rotate, move, rock, or anything while you're doing the exercise. Okay? As you get better, you can start cantilevering further and further out, but don't do it too fast. My arms are extended in front of me, elbows straight like a Superman. I'm going to begin the exercise with straight arms, sweeping straight back along the floor all the way to my hip pockets. And then they're going to rotate straight out, parallel to the ground, all the way back to the start positions. You want to make sure you get all the way to the start positions, hands completely extended overhead and touching at the top, okay? If you want to advance this one, small hand weights in your hand will be the way to advance this. But again, the most important thing, maintaining posture. Do not let that ball budge 1 fraction of an inch while your arms are going through this range of motion. This is really going to strengthen your core and really build your posture. One other thing, no shrugging. Hip extension, okay? This is the hip extension you're going to do from the supine position, meaning face up on the ball. You want to make sure that your head and neck, basically the base of your head and your neck is resting on the apex of the ball. This is a very critical position, okay? And so you're going to learn a lot about your flexibility from this position, because with your head in this position, your body is bridged out, your knees are bent, your feet are flat on the floor. The weight of your body is going to be on the heels. This is going to take some practice. Be easy on yourself. Keeping my weight on my heels, I'm basically dropping my rear towards the ground, okay? But how you do this is important. You're bending your body around the ball so that head stays right on top of the apex. You want to make sure the weight of your head stays on that apex. That's going to keep the ball from shooting out from behind you and you hitting the floor with a thud, okay? I guarantee you, if you keep your head on top of the ball, that won't happen. Dropping your hips, your body bends around the ball, you drop your hips. Your low point is going to be determined by your flexibility. So the less flexible you are, as you drop down, you're going to feel your head pop off the ball, okay? You need to be aware of that. Drop down, when your head starts to pop off the ball, that's your limit, unless you can adjust and keep that weight on top of the ball. But that is the hip extension. You're pressing straight up, your top position, you're going to really feel your glutes contracted, dropping up and down, keeping it under tension, 15 repetitions. Another one of my favorite abdominal exercises is the lateral ball roll. And this one's challenging because it works your abdominals in a way that you're not used to, and it's also challenging your proprioception. So I really recommend starting this one slow and be very, very careful because you can fall. So I'm laying on the ball. My arms are straight out to the side. I want to make sure they're parallel. If you have a broomstick that you can hold from palm to palm, that can help. But if you hold your hands side to side, you want to make sure you're not dipping one way or the other. From this position, I am going to lean to one side. And the key to leaning is you want to unweight the opposite leg that you're leaning towards. So if I'm leaning to the left, I want to unweight my right leg if I can. And so the more you unweight that leg, the more you're going to feel on that same oblique. And it's basically like doing an oblique crunch, okay? It's really bizarre, but it actually does work. 15, actually let's say 16 total repetitions. You're going to go 8 either side. You want to go nice and slow. If you pause at either end, you're going to feel that contraction even more. And again, this is a good exercise. It's just going to take some practice. Hey guys, I want to thank you for watching this video. Hey, if you liked what you saw, be sure to subscribe. I'm not doing as much photography videos at this moment just because we are on self-isolation and I'm doing my best to not spread. But these are things that we can work on as a photographer and try to improve ourselves, the best tool that we have, our body, for when we get back out on the field and doing what we love. Stay well, stay safe, and this is John Asumi from Motion Shooter Photography.